Hey scholars, this is a video explaining the argumentation application speech. So this is one of the final assignments in our class other than the final exam. I recommend that you have the assignment document out in front of you and that you're following along as I'm explaining the assignment. Obviously that assignment document is available in the same module as where you clicked on the link for this video. So what you're doing is giving a speech where you're preparing a presentation on one specific argument from Chapter 7. So Chapter 7 talks about a variety of different types of arguments or types of reasoning. So the way we reason is synonymous with the type of argument. So causal reasoning, generalization, sign reasoning, and then reasoning by analogy. So one of those four. So you're going to give a speech on one of those four types of arguments. So what you'll do is you're using the textbook as your primary source. So that's where you're going to get your information for how you understand the specific type of argument. So whichever argument you're using, obviously you're using the textbook. The textbook talks about it. You can use what I've talked about in the PowerPoint lectures, and then whatever I've included in the PowerPoint, right? That's all available to you as the source for the way that you're going to explain the argument. So essentially what you're doing is you're explaining the argument in your own words using the textbook or my PowerPoints or lecture, and then any other source that you think is relevant. The nice thing about this speech is that the only thing you're submitting is a speech video. I'm not requiring an outline. So this assignment is worth 100 points. There's no outline. There's nothing written that you're submitting. So the only thing you're submitting is the speech video itself. So you're providing a detailed explanation of one of the types of arguments, and then you're going to provide an illustration of how that kind of argument or how that type of reasoning is applied in a specific context. So it can be media-based, like advertisements, TV shows, movies, etc., or interpersonally based interactions you've had with close others where this kind of reasoning took place or takes place, or your own formed, hypothetical informed reflections. So what I mean is, like what I would say is the first step is choose the type of argument that you're most familiar with, or that's most interesting to you, or that you're most comfortable talking about in an applied setting, meaning the speech. So what you'll do is you're going to provide an application, an illustration, an exemplification of how this type of argument, this kind of reasoning, is exemplified in a specific context, like an advertisement, right? So think of all the different types of advertisements that you've seen, maybe recently, or something stands out to you, or maybe you think about one of those commercials you watched during the Super Bowl that really stuck with you, or a TV show, right? Maybe there's a certain TV show that you love watching. Maybe there's those shows that you've watched dozens of times. You've watched every single episode multiple times, or it's just an ongoing show, or a movie, or interpersonally based. Think about conversations you've had with people, whether it's a friend, a family member, coworker, a teacher, et cetera, or a hypothetical informed reflection. So you could, even if you can't think of a specific kind of advertisement, you could say, for example, if you're going to talk about generalization, maybe you're like, I can't think of an advertisement in particular, but hypothetically, if I were going to try to sell this product, or if there was a company trying to sell toothpaste, here's how they would use this kind of argument to sell this product. That's one thing that you could do. But most students from the speech assignment, I've done the speech assignment before, they choose either a specific interaction they've had with someone, or a TV show, or a movie, or an ad, or something like that. But it's really up to you what you want to do, as long as it makes sense, as long as the argument you're using, the type of reasoning you're using, is an appropriate illustration, right? As long as the example and the argument are appropriately applied, they have an appropriate relationship. In other words, if you're giving a speech and you're giving your speech and whatever topic you choose, let's say it's something that happened in a TV show, and you say this exemplifies sign reasoning, and I'm thinking, no, not really. That's more like exemplifying reasoning by analogy, right? That would be an issue to the grade, right? If you're applying the wrong thing, then then that's, you're not doing the assignment correctly. So make sure you understand. So that's why I say make sure you first choose the type of reasoning that you're most familiar with. Make sure you're really familiar with, if it's sign reasoning, review it in the textbook, read outside the textbook, review the PowerPoint lectures that I provided on that topic, what I said on the topic, etc. Make sure you understand it really well. And then once you do that, then it's going to be very easy to apply that to, let's say, a movie or TV show or an interaction you had with someone. So that's pretty much it. So it's pretty simple in a way. So the most important thing is that you understand the specific kind of argument. So this assignment is a good way to test the degree to which you understand a specific kind of reasoning in terms of argumentation, right? Specific type of argument. So here are some of the particulars, the logistics. This is the only speech that we've done in the class, the only speech we're doing in this class. So the only thing that you can have with you is one index card. So the only thing that you're able to hold in front of you or have in your hands is a single index card, either a 4x6 or 5x8, has to be handwritten, no typing on it. And basically you want to rely on your notes, rely on the index card as little as possible. Prior to beginning the speech, you're gonna take that index card and hold it up both sides, right? That's obviously not an index card. You're going to hold up both sides of that index card to the camera so that I can see it, just like I would do if I were in a classroom. So make sure you do that. And if it appears that you're reading, then that could have a serious negative effect on your grade. So I have a video on making speeches, how to record speeches for online public speaking. I have a video on that, and it's on the same module. So click on that. I highly recommend that you read through that. That you watch that video. Basically, what you want to do is you need to be standing while you're giving the speech. So here's the challenge. I'm going to just sort of highlight what I've said in the video in this video, but I definitely recommend that you watch the video that I have on my YouTube channel that's on how to make videos for online public speaking. I have two videos. I have the one that I made, and I provide you with a link to another video that's how to do online public speaking. It's good. It's a good one to watch through. So the video has to be one continuous video with no editing. So don't record and stop and then edit and cut it back in and so on and so forth. Don't record yourself for 20 minutes, starting and stopping, and then edit it together. That would have a serious negative impact on your grade. So one continuous video with no editing. You need to be standing, and you'll need to get creative with how you position your camera. So in my video, on my for my setup, I have a webcam in my computer. It's the kind that just pops up in the back. So for me, what I would do is I take a piece of furniture and then a couple of books, and I stack it up so that way the camera is eye level, right? I don't want to be grading the speeches with you looking down. So if I were standing giving the speech, I would be like this, right? I'd be like this, looking down at you. You're really far back, and I don't want that angle. The angle I want is eye level. So do whatever you need to do to make your camera eye level, not too high up. Usually the problem that I've seen is the camera is super low down, or it's on the desk and then you're standing up. So then it looks like, if I'm your audience, the idea is you're trying to simulate the public speaking experience like you're speaking in a classroom. But if you have the camera really far down and you're looking down at the camera's going up, it's kind of like if I were in a classroom, I'm looking up like this, and that's an awkward way of giving a speech or of watching a speech. So as much as possible, try to do whatever you need to do to get creative with raising your webcam. If it's on your computer or if you're using your phone, I've seen students before where they take their phone and they position it on their a dresser or something like that, using books or a lamp or something like that. You got to get creative for how you do that to simulate that public speaking experience. Make sure I can see you. Make sure I can see your face. Make sure the lighting is good. Make sure that the lighting's not behind you, because if the lighting's behind you, then your face might just be a big dark blur and I can't see anything. So eye behavior is very important. Make sure I can see your eyes in the camera. How do you ensure that? Watch the video the final video that you submit, make sure you watch that before you submit it for your final speech. Um, uh, and so the way to ensure that you're looking at the camera lens is to look at the camera lens and not below. So right now I'm looking below my camera lens, and right now I'm reading, right? So if I'm giving a speech and you see my eyes doing this, like going back and forth, left to right, I'm obviously not looking at the camera lens. Obviously I'm reading, right? Obviously I'm not looking at the camera lens. So make sure you're looking at the camera lens. And I tell this to students, this is not a public speaking class. This is the only speech we're doing in this class, but I've been teaching a lot of online public speaking classes for the last couple of years. And so the thing I really emphasize to students is to ensure that you're looking at the camera lens, because if you're not, it stands to reason that you're probably reading something. And if you say like, no, I wasn't reading something, I was just looking at the computer screen. Don't look at the computer screen. Cover up your computer screen. I highly recommend to take I highly recommend take a sheet of paper or cardboard or something and cover up your screen, so that the only thing you're looking at is the camera lens, just like I'm doing right now. Obviously, when your eyes break contact with the camera lens, you're looking off to the side, looking off to the left, looking off to the right, looking up, looking at your index card. That's normal, right? But when your eyes are fixated on something away from the camera lens like this, if I'm spending most of my time like looking like this, and I'm like, my eyes are kind of towards the camera lens, but I'm looking at something else, obviously I'm not looking at the camera lens. I'm looking at something else, and I'm not in the room, so I'm just going to assume that you're reading something. Obviously, I'm being very emphatic with how important this is, because this is a speech, not me watching you read something. I don't want a video of you just reading something. That's not giving a speech. A speech is, and most of you have had public speaking before, and if you haven't, then this will be your first speech. But nevertheless, you're all capable of getting so familiar with the content of your speech such that you're comfortable with only referencing an index card and engaging with the camera lens. So you don't necessarily have to memorize your speech, but you need to practice and rehearse your speech so many times that you barely need to look at your reference card, right? You barely need to look at your index card, because if you've rehearsed it that many times. So the idea is you rehearse it in sessions, rehearse it like maybe 3 or 4 times per session, right? And if the speech is 4 to 6 minutes, it needs to be at least 4, no more than 6 minutes. Each time you rehearse your speech, let's say that's 5 minutes. So you do that. Let's say you do that 4 times per session. We're talking roughly 30 to 45 minutes, right? If you rehearse your speech, you take some notes, you think through things, you write down notes on your outline on your index card, do it again, same thing, do it again. You rehearse that 3 or 4 times, boom, that's 1 session. You should have several sessions like that prior to your final video, and over the course of a few days. You don't want to try to memorize your speech. You don't want to try to like have a block of time. You don't want to do this for like 5 hours straight and then submit your final speech. It's going to usually be pretty choppy and kind of messy and not really refined and polished. So the advice I'm giving you is the advice that is intended to give you an optimal outcome for giving a refined, polished, great college level speech. I say this because when I'm grading the speech, I watch a speech and then I grade holistically. I grade based on your overall performance, the degree to which your speech is following the assignment, your delivery, your eye behavior, and I assign a grade. And I always tell my students that at this point in my career, I've seen roughly around 7,000 speeches. I'm just estimating based on a number of things. So I've been teaching college for 16 years. I've been teaching public speaking on and off the entire time. But every course I've taught, I've had a public speaking component, whether it's 5 speeches in a class per student or 1 speech in a class per student, evaluating speeches at debate tournaments, just evaluating public speakers in general. So I don't say that to boast, but I just say that so you know where I'm coming from. I've been doing this for 16 years, several thousand speeches. So when I watch your speech, I have a pretty good understanding of the degree to which or of how much you've performed, or how much you have rehearsed, and how much you've been practicing for this assignment. I don't say that to intimidate you or scare you, but I want you to know how I grade. So I give you a pretty detailed rubric. If you look at the very last page of this assignment, It shows you the rubric that I'm using. It's essentially a number of questions, right? Did the student do this? Was the delivery this way? And so on and so forth. So I highly recommend that you read through that to get pretty familiar with it, so you know where I'm coming from. I mentioned rehearsing with a timer. So some students like to give speeches with a timer, some without a timer. For me personally, I like having a timer. I like just knowing where the timer is. I don't look at the timer. I mean, I look at it every maybe 30 seconds. I'll just glance at it for a half second. That's how I like doing speeches or presentations. Some students don't like that. They're like, I don't like it. It just messes me up. Well, then don't use it, right? So I say try with the timer, try without a timer to see what works better for you. And then if you do use a timer for your final recording, just make sure that you're only glancing at it every so often. So don't put the timer, don't have like a timer on your computer screen. Cover up your computer screen with something, maybe tape it up or tape some sort of paper on the screen so you're not looking at it. And then you could have a timer to the side. And then you're just sort of, it's like in your peripheral, right? You'll just notice the time. Another thing that really helps you to sort of like, it serves as a form of accountability to ensure that you're looking at the camera lens, is you can take a couple of those Post-it note arrows. I think that's what they're called, like little Post-it note arrows, or like little sticky things that you might use on signing documents where it says sign here. Those little sticky arrows, and you can put 2 on either side of the camera lens, like just where my fingers are, like that. Get creative, right? Take those 2 little sticky arrows. Make sure you don't cover up the light, because the light will block your face. I mean, blocking the light will prevent your face from getting lit up. Or just something, right? Do something to ensure that you can put a bullseye around it. Some people have done that, but just do something creative to make sure that you're looking at the camera lens. So that's it. That's about that. So it needs to be at least 4 minutes, but no longer than 6 minutes. If it doesn't meet the time constraints, if it's not at least 4 minutes, or if it exceeds 6 minutes, the grade will be lowered accordingly. All that's explained on the last page of the speech rubric. So I mentioned here on page 3 of this assignment, or actually no, page 2. Page 2 of the assignment document, there's 3 parts: the intro, body, conclusion. Introduction, have an attention getter. If you're not sure how to develop attention getters, just go on Google and Google attention getters. Do something to get our attention, and then introduce your topic, provide a preview. The body is where you provide a detailed explanation of the argument, right? The type of reasoning that you're using, and then you're transitioning into the application of the argument. So this is the most important part, the application part. So the body would have basically like 2 parts, like part 1, here's what sign reasoning is. Sign reasoning is, and you're providing a detailed explanation of sign reasoning. And then the next part is, here's an example of where sign reasoning can be seen, exemplified in the movie, whatever, the movie or the TV show, or a conversation I had with my boss or my mom or my dad or my grandma, or whatever your example is. And then the conclusion is the commentary, where you're essentially making an argument for why your example was an appropriate illustration of the argument. In other words, you're kind of giving us the well, here's why I chose sign reasoning. Obviously, the application is the application. Here's an application of sign reasoning to this movie. The conclusion is, here's why it makes sense. Here's why this is useful, right? Here's why I chose sign reasoning as opposed to another example, right? You're basically explaining why it's useful, why it was a novel exemplification for the argument. And then you conclude, you're providing some closing thoughts, personal revelations, leave a lasting impression, and with confidence. And keep in mind, like I talk about the fact that you're providing an explanation of why that example and argument were useful and novel. This whole part, the whole conclusion, is only going to be a minute, less than a minute. So that's that. Here's some tips to remember. And then I have an outline template. So I highly recommend that you write out your speech. I said you're not turning anything in, you're not submitting any written documents, but I highly recommend that you follow this outline template to a T. If you follow this outline template to a T, it's going to make your speech preparation and the rehearsal process a lot easier, and you're going to see how there's structure, there's organization. It's going to make sense. You're going to be like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I'm so glad I listened to my teacher. All kidding aside, I highly recommend that you follow this. If you follow this, doesn't mean you're getting an A, but it means that you're going to be following the assignment. And a big part of the grading is the degree to which you followed the assignment, the degree to which your speech is following this structure in this assignment. Introduce the topic, then you have a transition, You describe the type of argument, and you have the argument application, and then the conclusion. And then I have a little box of just everything that I've talked about: the time, the dress. But you should dress up. It should be business casual. I'm not going to grade you down. There's no grade category for dress, but I highly recommend all students to dress up for whatever dress up is for them. The index card, the research, basically the course textbook. And if you use additional sources, make sure you cite those in the speech. No visual aids required. Rehearse a lot. I already talked about rehearsal, and then the speech video. The easiest way to do it in many ways is to record your speech, upload it to YouTube, and once that's uploaded, you just take that link and then post that to the module for this assignment. And then here's the grading rubric. Read through that thoroughly, and I would say read through it thoroughly multiple times so you know the way I'm grading. That's it. That's due Sunday the 12th, Sunday, December 12th by midnight. I highly recommend that if you're going to wait till the 12th to submit the final video, then you should be doing lots of rehearsals. Be developing the speech. I recommend developing the speech, developing your ideas, brainstorming, the outlining several days prior to that weekend. And then once you're ready, like when you're ready to start rehearsing, I would say give yourself a few days, right? Rehearse in multiple sessions one day, and then multiple sessions another day, and then give your body and brain and mouth and everything, give that time to develop that muscle memory to give this performance in the best way that you can possibly give it. I say that because, like I said, in most cases, when you're cramming for something like a speech, if you're cramming for an exam, you can usually pull that off. Okay, you get tired, it doesn't feel good in your brain, you're kind of foggy. But when it's a speech performance, it just doesn't work the same way usually. In my experience of seeing students give speeches, when you're just doing so much in a big block of time, it just doesn't give your body enough time to allow that material to sort of like marinate, so to speak. So you got to give it time, right? Rehearse in multiple sessions over a couple of days. And then once you're at that point where you feel good about it, where you can go through the speech and you're just like, yeah, I got this. Like I'm barely referencing my index card. I feel good. I feel confident. Think about reflect back on the public speaking anxiety workshop and all the things we talked about with that. And yeah, try to have fun. Try to choose a topic that's interesting to you and that you're excited about, and something that you know well, that you feel good, that you feel confident that you can explain in a way where you're explaining the argument with confidence, and then explaining the exemplification of that argument by using an example that you're confident and comfortable with. All right, that's it. Let me know if you have questions on this assignment. Hope you're doing well. Talk to you later. Bye.